Imagine this. You wake up, you check your phone, you check your bank account, and nothing is technically wrong. You're not broke, you're not in crisis, but there's this constant pressure sitting in your chest, this quiet feeling that no matter how much you earn, no matter how much you try, you're always just a little bit behind, like life is moving faster than you can keep up, like everyone else figured something out that you didn't. And the scary part is, you can't point to a single mistake, because on paper, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You work, you earn, you pay your bills. Maybe you even save a little. Maybe you even invest. And still, the feeling doesn't go away. So the question is not, why are you broke, but why do you feel behind even when you're not? And the answer is uncomfortable, because it's not about effort. It's not about discipline, it's about the system you're operating in and the invisible rules that shape your behavior without you even noticing. Because being behind financially is not a moment, it's a pattern. And patterns don't come from one decision, they come from repeated behavior reinforced over time. And most people are trapped in a loop they don't even see, a loop where income increases but pressure increases with it, where every step forward secretly creates a new baseline that makes your previous progress feel irrelevant. You get a raise and for a brief moment you feel relief. Then your lifestyle adjusts, your expectations adjust, your environment adjusts, and suddenly that raise disappears into normal life. Not because you wasted it, but because your brain redefined what normal means. And this is where the first trap begins. The moving baseline trap, where nothing ever feels like enough because enough keeps moving every time your situation improves. And if you don't recognize this, you will spend your entire life chasing a finish line that relocates itself every time you get close. And this is why people who double their income often feel the same level of stress as before, because stress is not tied to how much you earn, it's tied to the gap between what you have and what you think you need. And that gap is psychological, not mathematical. Now, let's go deeper, because there is another layer most people never consider: time distortion. Because money is not just numbers, money is time stored in a different form. And when you earn money, you're converting hours of your life into currency. But when you spend money, you're spending future time, not present time. And your brain is terrible at connecting those two. So it treats spending as painless in the moment and earning as separate, disconnected effort, which creates a dangerous illusion where you underestimate the true cost of your lifestyle because you don't feel the hours you already traded to get that money. You only feel the moment of spending. And that disconnect is one of the biggest reasons you stay behind, because your decisions are based on incomplete perception. Now, combine that with another factor: social scaling. Because you don't measure your financial position in isolation, you measure it relative to the people around you. And the moment your income increases, your environment often changes. You move to a better area, you interact with people who spend more. You higher standards as normal. And without realizing it, your reference point shifts upward. So even though you're objectively doing better, subjectively you feel the same or worse, because now you're comparing yourself to a higher level. And this creates the illusion of stagnation, even when you're progressing. And this is amplified by social media, where your brain is exposed to thousands of people living at different financial levels, showing only their highlights, which tricks your perception into thinking that rare success is common. And suddenly, your perfectly solid financial situation feels inadequate. And this is not your fault. Your brain was not designed to process global comparison. It was designed for small communities, and now it's trying to evaluate your life against millions of people at once, which guarantees that you will always feel behind. Now let's talk about the structure of your finances, because even if your mindset is perfect, structure can still trap you. And the biggest structural issue is fixed costs, because fixed costs reduce flexibility, and flexibility is what creates the feeling of control. If most of your income is already committed to rent, bills, subscriptions, and obligations, then even a good income can feel restrictive because you don't have room to adjust. And without room, every unexpected expense feels like a problem. Every small disruption feels like stress. And this creates a constant background anxiety that makes you feel behind even if your numbers are technically fine. And here's the key insight. The feeling of being behind is not about how much you have, it's about how much control you have. And control comes from margin, not income. Now let's introduce another layer, delayed reward fatigue. Because most financial strategies require you to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. Save now, invest now, wait, be patient. And while this works mathematically, it creates psychological tension because humans are not wired for long delays without visible progress. So even if you're doing everything right, the lack of immediate feedback makes it feel like nothing is happening, which leads to doubt, which leads to inconsistency, and inconsistency breaks the system. And this is why many people start strong and then slowly drift away from good habits, not because they don't care, but because the reward is too far away to stay emotionally engaged. Now add another factor, lifestyle inflation, which is not just about spending more, but about redefining what feels normal. Because once you get used to a certain level of comfort, going backward feels like loss, even if you're still objectively fine. And this creates a one-way ratchet where your lifestyle can only go up, never down. And that removes your ability to adapt. And without adaptability, you become fragile. And fragility creates the constant fear of falling behind. Now let's go even deeper, because there's a hidden conflict inside you, the conflict between identity and reality. Because you don't just want to be financially stable, you want to feel successful, respected, secure, and those are identity-based needs, not numerical ones. So even if your finances are okay, if your identity expectations are higher than your current reality, you will feel behind. And the more your identity is tied to external validation, the stronger this effect becomes, because now your spending decisions are not just about utility, they're about maintaining an image. And maintaining an image is expensive, not just financially, but emotionally, because it creates pressure to keep up appearances even when it doesn't align with your long-term goals. Now let's connect all of this. You have a moving baseline, time distortion, social comparison, fixed costs, delayed rewards, lifestyle inflation, and identity pressure, all interacting at the same time, and the result is a persistent feeling of being behind that doesn't go away just by earning more money because the system itself is misaligned. So the solution is not simply make more, it's to restructure how you interact with money entirely. And that starts with awareness. Because once you see these patterns, you can begin to change them. You can fix the baseline by defining what enough means for you, instead of letting it move automatically. You can reduce time distortion by consciously connecting spending to the hours it costs you. You can control social comparison by limiting exposure and choosing your reference points intentionally. You can increase flexibility by lowering fixed costs and creating margin. You can manage delayed reward fatigue by tracking progress in shorter intervals. You can prevent lifestyle inflation by maintaining intentional limits even as your income grows. And you can align identity with reality by focusing on control rather than appearance, because control is what actually creates freedom, and freedom is what most people are really chasing, not money itself. Now here's the most important shift. Instead of asking, why am I behind, start asking, what system am I operating in? Because once you change the system, the results change naturally. And this is where most people get stuck. They try to fix outcomes without fixing structure. They try to earn more without changing behavior. They try to save more without changing spending patterns. And this creates friction because the system keeps pulling them back to the same place. So real progress requires structural change, not just effort. And that might mean making uncomfortable decisions, lowering expenses instead of raising them, saying no to upgrades, choosing environments that support your goals instead of challenge them, building habits that feel boring but are consistent, and trusting processes that don't give immediate rewards. And this is not easy because it goes against your natural instincts, but that's exactly why it works, because most people never do it. And over time, these small structural changes compound into something powerful. Because once your system is aligned, progress becomes easier, not harder. And the feeling of being behind starts to fade, not because you suddenly have everything, but because you finally feel in control of where you're going. And that changes everything. Because when you feel in control, you stop chasing, you stop comparing, you stop reacting, and you start building. And building is what creates real financial stability, not just numbers in an account, but a system that supports your life instead of stressing it. And once you experience that, you realize something important. You were never actually behind. You were just playing a game with rules that were never designed for you to win. And the moment you change the rules, the entire experience changes with it. So the real question is not whether you can earn more or save more.
The real question is whether you're willing to step back, analyze the system, and rebuild it in a way that actually works for you. Because until you do that, no amount of money will ever feel like enough. And once you do, even less money can feel like more than enough. And that is the difference between chasing financial progress and actually achieving it. But let's go even deeper, because there is still another layer that explains why even when people understand everything we just talked about, they still stay stuck. And that layer is habit inertia. Because your financial life is not controlled by big decisions, it's controlled by small, repeated actions that feel insignificant in the moment. The daily coffee, the random subscription, the small impulse buy, the slightly nicer option, none of these feel like a problem individually, but together they form a system that quietly drains your resources. And the reason this is so powerful is because your brain doesn't register patterns made of small actions. It only reacts to big events. So you can lose thousands over time without ever feeling a single painful moment. And this creates a slow leak effect where your financial position weakens gradually without triggering any alarm. And by the time you notice, the pattern is already deeply ingrained. Now, combine that with decision fatigue, because every day you are making dozens of small financial choices: what to eat, what to buy, what to upgrade, what to ignore, and every decision consumes mental energy. And as your energy decreases, your decisions become worse. Not because you don't know better, but because you're tired. And tired brains choose convenience over optimization, which usually means spending more. And this is why even disciplined people can struggle financially, because discipline is not infinite. It's a resource that gets depleted, and if your system requires constant discipline to maintain, it will eventually fail, which is why automation and simplicity are so powerful, because they remove the need for constant decision-making. Now, let's talk about another hidden factor: opportunity blindness. Because when you are focused on maintaining your current lifestyle, you often miss opportunities to improve your situation. Not because they don't exist, but because your attention is occupied. You are busy managing what you already have instead of looking for ways to expand it. And this creates a subtle stagnation where you are active but not progressing, moving but not advancing. And over time, this becomes frustrating because you feel like you're doing a lot but not getting anywhere. And this frustration reinforces the feeling of being behind. Now, let's add another dimension: risk perception. Because your brain overestimates the risk of change and underestimates the risk of staying the same. So you avoid actions that could improve your situation because they feel uncertain, while staying in a suboptimal situation feels safe, even if it's slowly holding you back. And this creates a paradox where you protect yourself from short-term discomfort at the cost of long-term progress. And this is one of the biggest reasons people remain financially stuck for years. Now, let's connect this back to identity again, because your
Identity shapes your behavior more than your goals do. If you see yourself as someone who is always trying to catch up, you will subconsciously make decisions that reinforce that identity. You will hesitate, you will second guess, you will avoid bold moves, and this keeps you in the same pattern. But if you shift your identity to someone who is building control, your decisions change, your focus changes, your tolerance for discomfort changes, and over time, your results follow. Now, let's go even further, because there is also the issue of fragmented focus, because your attention is constantly being pulled in different directions: work, social media, responsibilities, entertainment. And this fragmentation reduces your ability to think deeply about your financial life. You react instead of plan. You respond instead of design. And without intentional design, your financial system defaults to whatever is easiest. And what is easiest is rarely what is optimal. Now, let's bring everything together again. You have psychological biases, structural constraints, environmental influences, habit patterns, decision fatigue, identity conflicts, and attention fragmentation, all working together to keep you in a state where you feel like you're always behind. And the key realization is this: you are not behind because you are failing. You feel behind because the system you are in is not designed to create a feeling of enough. It is designed to keep you consuming, comparing, and chasing. And once you see that, something shifts, because now, instead of blaming yourself, you start redesigning the system. You simplify your financial life. You reduce unnecessary decisions. You create automatic processes. You define clear boundaries. You focus on what actually moves the needle. And slowly, the noise starts to fade. The pressure starts to decrease, and the feeling of being behind begins to disappear. Not because you suddenly reached some magical number, but because you finally stepped out of the loop that was keeping you there. And that is the real goal. Not to win the race that everyone else is running, but to step off the track entirely and build your own path. Because once you do that, you realize something powerful. You were never actually behind. You were just measuring yourself against a system that was never aligned with your life in the first place. And once you change the system, everything changes. Your decisions, your stress, your progress, and most importantly, how you feel about your money and your future. And that is where real financial freedom begins, not in your bank account, but in your ability to design a life that works for you instead of against you.
Hello
That's
everyone,
all.
welcome to the
Subscribe
team.
and
I'm
like,
thrilled
and
to
I
have
will
you on
post
board.
even more
Let's achieve
interesting
great
and
things
useful
together.
videos about finance.